So arguably the biggest offseason trade just happened, which is Dejounte Murray getting traded to the Atlanta Hawks. If I'm being honest, this is a move I did not see happening. First of all, I did not see the San Antonio Spurs trading Dejounte Murray. I thought he was a part of their future. And second of all, I didn't see them trading him for such little. But regardless, I think at this current moment, it's clear to say that the Atlanta Hawks are clear winners of this move. And this is what led me to make this video, where I'll be discussing why I believe the Atlanta Hawks trading for Dejounte Murray kind of fixes all of their problems. Before we get into the video, I ask you to drop a like on this video as it does on my channel grow. Subscribe to my channel if you want daily NBA content. Also, we want us to go over 3,000 subscribers. Also, drop a comment on this video. I do respond to all of my comments. And play that intro.
Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah.
In my opinion, at least, the Atlanta Hawks clearly have to be the winners of this trade, and if you think otherwise, you have to be a crazy Spurs fan. First of all, adding Dejounte Murray fixes a lot of the Hawks' biggest problems. Last season, when the Hawks had a disappointing year and got embarrassed by the Heat in the first round, the biggest reason for that was due to the fact that the Hawks were not a great defensive team, and outside of Trae Young, the Hawks didn't have any great scorers or any guys who create their own shots or any guys who could create plays for the team at a high level. To be honest, no guys who could really handle the ball at a good level. And every time Miami would double team Trae Young, they felt comfortable doing that because they knew the Hawks would not win the series if a guy like Bogdanovic was going to try and beat them off the dribble. And that's exactly what happened, as they lost in 5 games and most of the games weren't even close. But Dejounte literally fixes those problems. First of all, on the defensive side of the floor, he's a top 10 defender, top 10 guard defender in the league, top tier perimeter defender. He wasn't as good as he could have been last year because he was focused so much on offense and asked to do so much for the Spurs. But I don't feel like on the Hawks he's gonna be so much focused on offense, because the Hawks have a lot of other scoring options, a lot more talent that he didn't have back in San Antonio. So I think he's gonna lock in, go back to being that elite guard defender we all know he could be. Not saying he was a bad defender last year, just saying he wasn't at that all defensive level. But don't forget, this guy made an all defensive team in just his second season. He's definitely legit on the defensive side of the floor. He is definitely a huge add, because we all know Trae Young is probably the worst defender in the league, if not one of the worst. He's a legit liability on defense, and before the Hawks had him paired up with Dejounte, Bogdanovic was his backcourt partner. And to be fair to Bogdanovic, he's a slightly above average defender at best, but when you're pairing a guy with Trae Young, he has to be a really good defender because Trae Young is just that bad on defense. Kind of like how the Warriors played Klay Thompson with Steph Curry. But to be fair to Steph Curry, he is an above average defender and a solid defender, but back in the day he was not that, so they had to pair him up with a good defender in Klay Thompson. And overall, this Hawks team just doesn't have that much great defenders. They have a lot of below average to average defenders, but now they're adding one of the best defenders in the league. I think he's capable of making a defensive team for sure and just making them way better on defense, and it's going to be way easier to hide Trae Young on defense. Arguably, the Hawks' biggest weakness was the defensive side of the floor, so the fact that they just used some first-round picks and Danilo Gallinari to improve that much already makes them a way better team. And also, it's not like Dejounte Murray's Marcus Smart, where he's just great on defense then just slightly above average on offense. All my respect to Marcus Smart. Dejounte's a legitimate all-star and an offensive nearly superstar, if we're being honest. And he fixes the other problem the Hawks were dealing with. As I said, in that series versus Miami, they could just double team Trae Young because the Hawks had no other legit ball handlers, shot creators, or playmakers outside of him. But now, if you do that with Dejounte Murray on the team, Dejounte gets an easy path to the basket where he can create plays, knock down his mid-range jump shot, or finish at the rim. If Dejounte Murray is on the Hawks team last year, I promise you that his series is going to 7 games and just being straight up way more competitive. Maybe the Hawks even win it, who knows? But now this just takes a lot of pressure off of Trae Young because he was one of the most ball-dominant players in the league. The Hawks basically had no chance of success when the ball was not in his hands, but now Trae Young can take a break, doesn't have to pound the ball every possession, season, because even though Dejounte Murray is not as good as Trae Young, barely anyone else is when it comes to handling the ball, but Dejounte is nearly as good as it gets. Please don't forget this guy averaged 9 assists last season, so he's not even that far off from Trae Young when it comes to playmaking. And all I'm going to say is that the Hawks shooters are going to get a lot more wide open shots this year, and Trae might get some of the easiest shots he's ever gotten, because you have to look at it this way. Last season, a lot of Trae Young shots had to come from creating his own shots and hitting some contested shots. He never got some easy looks like his teammates did from like drawing the attention or anything from the defense. But now Dejounte can do that and give Trae a lot of more open looks, and I think we could definitely see Trae's efficiency go up. Dejounte is just going to be helping everyone on the team. And the thing is, before the Hawks even had that second all-star player in Dejounte Murray, they were still like a solid team. Remember, they went to the conference finals a few years, but now they're adding a legit second all-star next to Trae Young. This definitely brings him to the next level. Last season, Dejounte averaged 21 points, 9 assists, 8 rebounds, 2 steals on good efficiency. The Hawks are getting a guy who can literally do a bit of everything. Sure, he might not be the best three-point shooter in the world, but I don't think it's going to be a big problem, especially when you realize how much shooting the Hawks have on their roster. And it's not like he's Russell Westbrook or something. He can knock down some shots from the mid-range area, and he can knock down some open threes. But honestly, I think this backcourt duo is a perfect fit. They both complement each other a lot, and I truly believe this brings the Hawks to that next level, because he fixes up their 2 other big weaknesses. Obviously, he's not going to turn them from like one of the worst defenses in the league to maybe even like the best defense in the league, but he can turn them to an above average defense. I genuinely believe he's that good of a defender. When it comes to the offensive side of the floor, the Hawks were already good, but when it comes to playoff time, I think his value will really show, because teams won't be able to double team Trae Young as easily, and if they do, he can capitalize off those double teams. And regardless, I honestly just don't see any way, any universe where this doesn't work out for the Hawks, because Dejounte is a player who I think could play with a lot of players. He's not crazy ball dominant, he moves well off the ball. Also, when you realize the Hawks didn't really have to give up anything significant, just amazing deal. They gave up Gallinari, who at this point in his career isn't good enough to even be a contributor to a winning team, and they gave up 3 first-round picks. I don't think that's that big of a deal, because it's not like the Hawks are rebuilding right now. And if we're being honest, those picks won't even be in the lottery. And if you're them, you just have to try and capitalize off Trae Young's prime right now. So honestly, I think this was a great move. I think Dejounte is really getting out of this team, and I'm honestly excited to see him get traded from the Spurs, because it was clear the Spurs were not going to be a legit team, like a legitimately good team for a couple of years. So now that I think about it, trading him was probably a good idea, but I think they could have got more. But obviously, if they could have got more, they would have traded him for more. But I'm just happy to see Dejounte finally be on a good team and try and help them win. I think the Hawks are definitely legit right now, and they definitely already won the offseason just off of this. We have to see what they're going to do with John Collins now. Anyways, guys, that's it for the video. Let me know whether or not you think the Hawks won this trade. Drop a like on this video, down my channel to grow. Subscribe to my channel if you want daily NBA content. Also, we wanted to go over 3,000 subscribers. Also, drop a comment on this video. I do respond to all your comments. And play that intro.